To order, please. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, can we please have roll call?
Yes, sir. Chair Carmelo Aquindle,
Present.
Vice Chair Philip Lantry, running a little bit late, but he is excused. Member Russell Alexander, absent, he is excused. Member Nanette Douglas,
Present.
Member Dawn Grisby,
Present.
Member Dawn Streeter,
Present.
Member Darth Stacy Snyder.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum. All our voting members tonight that are here, if Mr. Lantry, does arrive, then Ms. Streeter will be the voting member, but you're all, of course, allowed to participate, of course. So, thank you.
Okay. If everybody's had a chance to look at the meeting minutes from the last planning commission held on April 16th, can I have a motion, please?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All passes. Okay, we will start with the first order of new business. Item A, resolution number 2024-059R, CNU 23-00012. That's what's on there.
One of those days. I apologize. Okay, so our new business is going to be a presentation by our consultant, Aries, and they're doing the historic preservation plan for the city. And what this plan is designed to do is just to help us characterize our historic area because we have a lot of development coming in. So we want to make sure that we have a plan in place and that we know how we're going to move forward. So they're going to present some information to you tonight on the preservation plan. And the presenter will be Benoit.
Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, Chair. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present. My name is Benoit Panico with Ayers Associates, and we've been tasked to prepare a historic preservation plan for the city of St. Cloud. We started earlier this year. The city was a recipient of some grant monies to help put all this effort together, and we were called on to take this task. So the historic preservation plan will be prepared as per the Secretary of Interior's standards, so that's a national standard. And the effort really is to build on the good work that's already been done in the city. There's a lot of different groups that are doing good preservation work. You've seen some of it in the streets that's been built here. There's historic buildings that we know, the culture and the history. So our job here was really to document all of that in one place as the context for the plan, and then make some recommendations that will move the agenda forward in terms of historic preservation in the city. So, quickly, the purpose is to advocate some. That's okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. So again, the purpose is really to consolidate all this information, the known history of the city. We know the part near downtown between Columbia and 30 blocks, east-west, and north-south, 17 blocks, all are part of the history from 1910 of the original plat. There's a few historic buildings in the city designated. There's the national designated district. In all of that, plus all the efforts from the Main Street program, the Osceola History Center, put all of that together and chart out a roadmap for a cohesive action for the city to move forward with. So the planning process really for this project was we started in January. We used a method of 4 phases, and the first phase was really to assess and map all the data that was available, including the areas that have already been surveyed and documented. So there's 4 structures in 1 district. And the second phase really is to engage with the community, get the feedback. We actually met with a few stakeholders, a lot of the Historic Preservation Board. We met with the Main Street groups, and we had 2 public meetings and an online survey to make sure that what we understood was correct, and roll out some of the initial ideas of where we want the plan to go forward to, and put all of that together and come up with a draft plan. So we're actually in the middle of the 3rd phase right now. So this has been a fast-track process. We've been at it for like 5 months. There's a grant deadline by the end of June to have it all resolved and submitted to the state, which is one of the conditions of the grant. So, but in all this, we've actually managed to have an extensive planning process and a lot of discussion with the Community Development Department headed by Tisha and Stephanie and Melissa. We meet with them on a bi-weekly basis to make sure that everything that we've heard is aligned, both with the policies that are in place with the comp plan, as well as the Historic Preservation Ordinance outline that you already have. So right now, we're in this phase of tidying up the plan. A draft plan has been prepared and submitted to the Community Development Department. It's under review in terms of content and recommendations. With that, I'd like to have my colleague here, Jay, to come and just give you a little bit of a context of the history of what we've studied. So this is a quick snapshot, and then I'll come back with the recommendations.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. Okay, so in the report, you will find a nice, visually pleasing timeline, essentially archiving the history of St. Cloud, starting from Native Americans to 1970. We cover Hamilton-Disston, the sugar plantation. We talk about the early years, the implementation of Soldier City, the presence of African Americans, the contributions to capital improvement projects by the Women's Club, and then as well as preservation efforts that have been done in the city thus far, from the creation of the CLG to the Main Street program, and then as well to the establishment of the Historic Preservation Ordinance. So using the 2020 Historic District Survey that was completed as a guideline, we then compiled all of the Nationally Historic Registered properties you have in the city, as well as the downtown area, which is your designated historic district. From there, we then began the mapping process of showing all of your historic assets together. So that includes the landmark site of the plantation, that includes the canal, Mount Peace Cemetery. As you can see on the map, the dark blue are the listed properties, so that would be the GAR, that would be the Heritage Museum, as well as the Women's Club, and then you have your district. And then the light blue are the eligible properties that have met that 50-year deadline, as well as eligibility status. The other properties are shown on the far left of some of the other properties we looked at during our site visit to determine eligibility status. So then we furthered this by talking to the Heritage Museum and visiting the archive, as well as talking to some people at Main Street. And there is a component for heritage tourism within the Historic Preservation Plan as a economic development component. So from there, we compiled another map showing the walking tours and all of your historic properties that could be utilized for heritage tourism as well. And in conjunction with your walking mural tour that you've already established here. So in this process, we've also reviewed all of the plans that the city currently has, the historic preservation ordinance, the land development code that has the architectural design standards, the comp plan, the CRA master plan, the 1998 historical and architectural survey, as well as the most recent 2020 downtown historic district survey. Currently, as it stands, reviewing all of these documents, there is currently no language in any of these documents that talks explicitly about the preservation or conservation of historic properties and structures within the city. So from that, utilizing the APA's 2012, the September to October edition of their pass, we looked at some best practices of what could be implemented in the downtown when talking about your preservation plan. So for development, we were looking at long-term planning. So we know that the city is suffering from development pressures. We have a map in here in the report as well in this presentation that sort of visually outlines where your development is happening, which is usually on the perimeter and then south, as you all know. So within that, because development is going to keep popping up, especially in the downtown where we want to attract businesses, we need to talk about long-term planning and what that looks like for a lot of your historic structures in the downtown area. Then we want to look at structural. So that's in regards to conservation and adaptive reuse. How can some of these historic buildings downtown be utilized for new businesses that want to come in and feed the local economy? And in doing so, how do we also protect that building while also keeping with the integrity of what that established business has to offer to the community? Then we have administrative. So that would be compliance standards in terms of setting up those design guidelines specifically for historic properties and the historic downtown area. Then we are looking at public and private partnerships. So that's capacity building. That's looking at educational programs, possibly training for realtors, developers, city staff, residents, so that everyone has a general understanding of what preservation in the city looks like and how we can continue to preserve and conserve that. So then we start looking at opportunities and challenges, and this was the growth map that I mentioned previously. So for benefits and protection, we noticed in our analysis and our review that there is currently no comprehensive inventory of potential eligible structures that are upcoming to that 50-year deadline eligibility mark. And then perhaps maybe we may want to reconsider maintaining one. So when that property, that structure, what have you, that neighborhood starts to approach that deadline, we can add it to the list. So then that's added to the next survey that's bound to happen. Then we want to look at growth and development. So then we're looking at, again, development pressures, right? And how can we develop design guidelines that do not prevent or hinder any sort of development or business in the downtown area, but then works with it in tandem. Then placemaking and community design. Historic preservation can be used for placemaking and community building, especially when it comes to advertising yourself to potential businesses, visitors, and marketing yourself with your own identity. Then we're looking at education and awareness. Not a lot of residents I don't think really have a general understanding of what the preservation efforts in the city looks like. And so with that, perhaps we can formulate an educational program, some sort of training for city staff, elected leaders, developers, realtors, as well as citizens working together to push forward those preservation efforts within the city. And then program administration. So this goes back to the creation of training city staff. This goes back to working with the Preservation Board, Main Street, helping one another, having that communication to, again, push these preservation efforts forward. Okay, I will pass it back to my colleague.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. So what we just summarized is a 120-page report, and we went through, actually each slide is one chapter in the report, explaining the context and the history, and there's several flowcharts that document the time frames in that period. And we went through a thorough planning process from the beginning, like mapping out the context and then having public engagement within the time that we had. And we listed out some opportunities and challenges. We looked at some best practices. We did review other historic preservation plans in addition to the PAS reports to come up with the recommendations. So the recommendations are, this is a quick snapshot. It's a thorough document that's structured into 4 main sections. The first section is economic vitality. One of the criticisms of historic preservation plan is, often it's an impediment to economic development. But as we know from other communities like Mount Doro or Winter Park, that can be a tool to enhance the quality of the city, enhance the brand of especially the downtown area, and thereby increase economic development. So the way we recommend that happen, we've outlined like several projects, like actually tangible actions that will rest with the Community Development Department after the plan is done. That includes establishing design guidelines, establishing mechanisms for private property owners to pursue grants, establishing procedures to get registered within the National Historic District, and other incentives to make historic preservation tangible within downtown and the rest of the 1910 boundary. The second category of projects really is community design. In that, there's from the feedback that we've received, there were a few highlights. One was the need for a comprehensive signage kind of identity package that would define what downtown is, including signs and gateways and markers and murals. So that's a physical item. In addition to that, there was a public art program that was mentioned, and destination creation. So through all of this, you'd have like an identity for downtown and the older areas, not just the downtown, but even the neighborhoods surrounding the downtown would have its own identity through gateways and markers. So that came out very clearly from all the stakeholder groups on how we can actually brand downtown St. Cloud and the adjacent older original platted areas into a historic district or multiple districts. The third category is promotion. There's a lot of promotion work that is ongoing with the Main Street. There's walking tours, and in part of the Osceola Historical Society, there's programs that involve education with the schools. So we've listed about at least 15 to 16 definitive actions in the recommendations that further promote that, and partnerships with online learning, documenting the Veterans Park and the activities that happen there, the Women's Club, and all the original homes from there, documenting the architectural character, and so a lot of education and promotion as well associated with that. And last but not the least, we've identified a category called program administration, through which is more structural changes that would need to happen in association with the creation of design guidelines, ordinance establishing a more tight ordinance, and defining the powers of the Historic Preservation Board, establishing a historic preservation officer within the Community Development Department to be the keeper or the custodian of historic preservation and all things related to that. There's a list of at least 10 to 12 different actions in terms of program structural changes that are based on best practices that could help move the agenda forward. So that in a nutshell is really what we've come up with so far as a quick update. We've identified in all of these implementation steps, program partners. Clearly, we've met with quite a number of people, and it's not just the city actions that are needed for moving the historic preservation agenda forward. It's really partnerships with all the entities that are already in the city and others as well that would come on board. With that, we can take some questions, and Tisha is here as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
You were talking about artwork. What kind of artwork are you talking about? Is it going to complement the heritage of St. Cloud, or is it going to be abstract? What kind of artwork are you talking about?
So We haven't defined what exactly that artwork is, but it is in principle, it is the artwork that would complement the existing murals. And we also recommend a public art trail on the new infrastructure on Florida Avenue. We think that there's an opportunity to link downtown to the Lakeshore Park. So through some public art. Art is a tricky subject in terms of taste and, there's this movement that also can argue that modern art is also part of the history. But that would be some of the Historic Preservation Board's actions to determine what art, like how you would determine signage, what constitutes an appropriate signage. But we've identified that there's need for specific gateways, especially on New York and 1792, one near Centennial Park, an arts trail that's complementing the new infrastructure that's there. That answer your question?
Not really, but it's.
Yeah, we haven't defined it, but we want to establish that it's complementary.
So they're gonna vote on it, like what kind of artwork?
Yes.
do we get?
So see, this is just a roadmap that would, provide guidance and kind of collate all the efforts, because there's a lot of groups that actually have a real interest, the Downtown Business Group and Main Street and historians and Parks and Recreation and then community development. And so we just want to have one kind of holding place for everybody to move forward. And that's the purpose of this.
If I could add to that, I'm sorry, Tisha Manning, Zoning Manager, Community Development. If I can add to that, when it comes to the historic preservation, the next step after this is we're also going to establish some design guidelines. So in that design guidelines, we'll have things as far as what type of art, what type of, paint, what type of signage. All of these things are going to be addressed later. As Benoit stated, this is kind of the foundation to get all of the parties involved at the table to understand what it is, what our goals, what we're trying to accomplish, and then we'll move into the next phase of the project. Do you have any other questions?
So all this is going to be presented to the Historic Preservation Board, and they'll be voting on all these topics.
So the Historic Preservation Board has already heard this, has already gotten this presentation. So the next step is for this to go before City Council. And then once we actually, meet the parameters of this grant, then we'll move into the next phase again, which is going to be our design guidelines and start rewriting our ordinances and things like that to take historic preservation of the city to where it needs to be and to accommodate new development and future development.
Will all the funding come from the grant, or will there be any cost additional to the city?
Well, this particular item, this is grant funded with some matching contributions from the city.
That would be my only recommendation, is to cautiously watch the funding.
Of course, we would, look for any type of grant funding that may be available and apply for those grant fundings.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this is just a presentation. You're not looking for any kind of commission
Correct.
action type, correct?
Correct. Any other questions for myself
Any
or
other
the
questions?
I
consultant?
have a question.
Go ahead,
Where
ma'am.
can we get a copy of the complete report?
Okay, so the Historic Preservation Plan has not been approved and rolled out. Once it is approved, then it'll be open to the public and everyone can have a copy of it. It's still currently under review.
No other questions? Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Mr. Landry, you want to join us?
Mr. Landry, you can certainly take your seat.
Only if you bring your fee for being late. Where's our ice cream?
Yeah, Mr. Lantry will join as a voting member, so Ms. Streeter will be the fifth voting member for the remainder of the agenda.
Okay, so I guess now we will be taking resolution number 2024-059R, Soldier City Fitness, CNU 23-00012.
Good evening. zoning manager for community development. The case presented before you tonight is going to be a conditional use for Soldier City Fitness, which is on 0.9 acres of land and located approximately north of East 17th Street, west of Orange Avenue, east of Eastern Avenue, and south of 13th Street. Staff does recommend approval. Currently, the property is zoned Industrial 2. The future land use is also industrial. Again, it's a fitness center of approximately 5,000 square feet, and it's going to be in the Commerce Industrial Park, and it poses no adverse impacts on city facilities. So this conditional use is a little bit out of the ordinary because it was actually approved in 2021. The reason why this conditional use is back before you is because the applicant failed to obtain their business tax receipt and their building permits prior to the expiration of their conditional use. So now they have to come back and get the approval again. They haven't changed anything from their original plans to what they're applying for today. This is the zoning map for that area, and this is the future land use. This is their concept plan of what they're proposing. Again, it's going to be a 5,000 square foot facility. They have about 25 parking spaces and some green area over in that area. You can kind of see the existing businesses around there. There is already a fitness center there that I believe that they were occupying or they are occupying now. And then there's an auto repair. Again, it is in an industrial area. So we are requesting, again, approval of this conditional use, 2024-059R. And staff is available for any questions, and I believe the applicant is also available if you have any questions.
Would the applicant like to come up and speak?
Good evening, Joe Thacker. I'm representing the developer. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try to address those tonight. We agree with all of staff's recommendations.
So in checking my understanding, on the 2021 situation, it was approved at that time?
Correct. They had an approved conditional use. Again, there's no major changes to the layout or the plan. They just simply did not obtain their business tax receipt and their required permits in time, so their conditional use expired.
Do they have all of those now?
They do not have a business tax receipt because they first have to have an approved
This,
conditional
okay.
use, and then they won't want to pull permits until they know they
Got
can
it.
build.
Okay.
Yes. But I take it if they're back before the board, then they're ready to proceed forward. But the applicant answered.
Okay. Any questions? Any other questions? I will open it for public comments. Public comments going, come on.
Ma'am, if you have a public comment, you have to come to the microphone, state your name and address, and then please fill out a form for our clerk before departing. Thank you.
Maria Maldonado, and you said address as well?
Yeah, your address.
1846 Ashton Park Place. From the audience back here, the slides, I know you guys probably have them nice on your screen.
Microphone?
Can you hear me or not?
No.
Okay. Do I have to, you want me to repeat
Please.
myself, sir?
Please.
Okay. Maria Maldonado, 1846 Ashton Park Place, St. Cloud, Florida. You're welcome. So from the audience back here, I know you guys can see the slides because you have them on your computers and they're clear. Where is this location exactly? Because I can't really tell from the back. Thank you. Can't really see that.
So it's 17th Street and
Okay.
Eastern Avenue, so it's right here.
Okay,
It's right here.
got you.
Okay.
So in the graph, where there was just green, is that where the trees are right now? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. And you said I have a form to fill out over here? Thank you.
Any other public comment? Public comments going once, twice, three times. We'll close the public comments. Any comments amongst yourselves?
I don't have anything.
Don't have anything? Okay, do I get a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of resolution number 2024-059R with conditions as stated by staff.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All passes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Second order of business is ordinance number 2024-28, St. Cloud Marketplace, PUD 23-00005.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Carol Cepeda. I am a senior planner for the Community Development Department. This is for the St. Cloud Marketplace. The applicant is requesting consideration of a planned unit development zoning district and approval of a preliminary master plan and final master plan. The property has a total of 10.33 acres. The property is currently zoned highway business with a future land use of commercial. The applicant is requesting a zoning of planned unit development through the ordinance 2024-28. The current developable area is 10.33 acres. The existing commercial use and gross intensity allows for 0.75 floor area ratio. And your proposed future land use for the planned unit development is proposing the same gross intensity max of 0.75. This is the map of the current zoning and the future zoning. The zoning is requesting 8 commercial lots for a commercial subdivision on 10.33 acres with a gross intensity of 0.75. The project is 8 lots for a commercial subdivision. It is giving active recreation area and flexible design standards and commercial uses. This is the overall site plan provided to us with the preliminary master plan and final master plan for this site. DRC staff recommendation is approval of ordinance 2024-28. Planning Commission requested action is approval of ordinance 2024-28. First reading was held March 28th, 2024. Motion to approve was made by Mayor Blackwell and seconded by Councilmember Gilbert, and the motion carried 5-0. Staff is available for any questions that you may have, and the applicant is here and available for any questions that you may have as well.
Will the applicant like to come up and speak?
Good afternoon, Carlos Pereiro, Kimley Horn, 200 South Orange Avenue, Orlando, Florida. I'm here representing the developer RRB Partners. We agree with staff's recommendation for approval, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Do any of the members have any questions for the city or for the?
What are you building?
So the majority of the site has already been constructed. It's a mixed-use commercial, so on that site, there is a freestanding emergency room. There is some multi-tenant suites, including Jeremiah's, Marco's Pizza. There's a learning experience, and in the future, hopefully to develop more commercial uses, including restaurants.
Any other questions?
So the businesses that are currently there, they are a portion of the space that's being asked for here?
Correct,
Or
yes.
okay.
The project was previously approved through a PSP and a subdivision construction plan. The majority of the site has been constructed. The reason that we are requesting a rezoning from the highway business to a PUD is to allow flexibility in the minimum lot size and the building setbacks, and still remain consistent with our zoning.
Will this make the minimum plot sizes smaller?
Yes.
Is that because there would be the cost of it for a particular business? Maybe it was too big and they can't afford it, so, I mean, why are we making it smaller?
Yeah, so you have two options when you're doing this kind of mixed-use commercial development. The developer can choose to own the entire property and then lease out specific areas, the buildings and the parking and associated infrastructure. In this case, we were going kind of with option two, which is to subdivide the land so that the building owner can own the parking and sidewalk and be responsible for that maintenance. There is still going to be a property owners association, meaning the whole property will be taken care of, the public spaces will be taken care of. It's just at the point where we are now to split it and meet the highway business zoning, minimum lot areas and building setbacks. It just doesn't work with what's the current zoning is. So we're asking for flexibility in that sense.
Okay, I get it.
And also that provides you more flexibility for tenants, right? Or possible businesses that want to occupy the property.
Correct.
Yeah. Which I think actually makes sense for this area. It gives them a little bit more flexibility.
We want more small businesses to succeed.
Yes.
We have any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
No problem.
I will open it now for any members of the public. No public comments, close public comments. Any other questions amongst yourselves? If not, can we consider a motion, please?
I was just going to ask a quick question of the city staff. Is this, the sequence of this went to city council first simply because of the scheduling and getting it in front of the planning commission? I believe that's why, but I just was checking.
Yeah, it's for scheduling purposes, just because that's a first reading, so it's not a
Right.
voting or anything. It
Okay.
just helps along with, since we just are getting one city council meeting a month now.
Right, okay. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure I was correct. Thank you.
Asking that, I was curious.
That's why I asked for you.
Thank you.
All right. If everybody's satisfied, may I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of ordinance number 2024-28 based on the 16 findings within the Land Development Code.
I second it.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you.
Passes 5-0.
Next order of business, ordinance number 2024-32, ANX 24-00002.
Good evening, Commission. Bernice Gonzalez, Principal Planner, Community Development. We're here presenting ordinance 2024-32 for the voluntary annexation of approximately 2.7 acres located north of Earlo Bronson Highway and surrounded on 3 sides by the incorporated area of the city of St. Cloud. At this time, the parcel has been found to be contiguous and reasonably compact. It's abutting on the northwestern eastern property boundaries. It would remain with the county future land use and zoning designation. The applicant is allowed by the code up to 12 months after annexation to request a change in future land use and zoning. At this time, the applicant only wishes to request a voluntary annexation. Staff have reviewed the application and find it meeting the criteria and is requesting from the Planning Commission the action of approval of the recommended ordinance 2024-32. Staff is here and the applicant representative is available as well for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bernice, can you just go back to the map? Could you have clicked back to the map
Yes.
for me, please?
That one?
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Does the applicant would like to speak? I guess not. Any other questions that we may have for the applicant or for the city?
So there's nothing on this property now, right?
Right
This is
now,
just-
it's vacant,
Is this vacant?
yes.
I have an interpreter, good night, to help me. I concern.
Please state your name.
My
and
name is
address.
Sylvette Santos. Her name is Susan.
My name is Susan Lobriel.
Su dirección?
And your address?
24, my address, 2407 Josefina Drive, Kissimmee.
Thank you.
I concern for I have just one question, and Lubriel probably help me in reference and the annexation.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Are you representing the applicant? Are you the applicant?
I represent Consuegra,
Okay.
the owner of the, he do a commitment with the builders, and I have one question for all you guys, and she can help me.
You can provide comment to the commission. The commission's not going to give you guidance, but you can obviously direct questions to city staff. But the commission's here to take your comments or feedback before they take action on this request for annexation.
Okay, the little bit I know
Yeah.
is that Consuegra gave a small portion of the property to the builders. And in exchange, the builders were gonna bring in all the utilities to all of the land. And as of this moment, the only portion of utilities that have been brought in were brought into the portion that was passed over to the builders. But there's no information on what's gonna happen with the utilities of the rest of the property.
Okay. Well, this is the narrow issue of tonight for this commission is the approval or the consideration of approval of the annexation of this particular land. So those other aspects of the overall endeavor are outside of this commission for this evening. They're only determining whether it's appropriate for annexation pursuant to the request.
Understand?
You are both here on behalf of the applicant, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And you wish for the voluntary annexation to be approved, yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I apologize, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to clarify from a procedural standpoint.
So I guess any of our questions should be addressed to the city.
My only question was whether it's vacant, but I think that question was
It was
answered.
answered.
So I just was confirming.
Can I get a clarification on something?
We haven't opened it for public comments yet. Give us 1 second, ma'am.
So I just want a clarification on something. If we annex it in, did I hear that right, that the county still has kind of jurisdiction over it and they can say what can be built there? Or is it once we're annexed in, then the city can say, this is how stuff is going to be built here?
Bernice Gonzalez, Principal Planner, Community Development. Once the annexation takes place, the rules of the city shall apply.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But keep in mind, commission members, this is a recommendation tonight. This is going to go to council for their determination on this and then land use and zoning as it flows. Tonight, it's only annexation that's being recommended from an advisory perspective.
Okay. Any other questions? I will open it now for public comments, man. You could come up and state your
Anyone
name
that
and
wishes to give
address.
public comment, please make sure to fill out the proper form when you're done with your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
My name is Maria Machado. I'm at 2970 Big Sky Boulevard. I'm sure that's by us, by Big Sky Boulevard, correct? Okay. My concern is what they want to do back there, because we're concerned about flood, what they want to do there. What's going on there? What's your plan?
It's not our plan.
Yes.
Yeah, this is appropriate for comment to the commission, and then
Okay.
obviously you'll get response from the applicant and/or the staff
Okay.
once your
That's
comments are
if that's your
concluded.
question, the city will come back and answer that to you, okay?
Okay, yeah, that was my question, because that's behind my home.
Okay.
So we wanted to know what's really the plan there, because we have a ditch there. And I'm concerned about flooding, what's gonna happen, and what's the plan really to go there behind our homes.
Your concerns are valid. We understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. State your name and address, ma'am.
My name is Ina Torres. I'm at 2960 Big Sky.
On the letter, it mentions that they want to voluntarily annex to the approximate either plus or minus 2.784 acres. What does that mean in reference to my property? Do they want for me to voluntarily give them a piece of my property, or?
No. They'll explain that to you now. Can you also fill out the form also, please? And any other public comments? Well, we'll close the public comments and bring back the city so they can answer the question.
Good evening, Council. Dagmary Segarra, Deputy Director. So this annexation, to answer the first question, at this moment, there.
Give me 1 second. Ladies,
They're signing.
give us a second so you could listen to what she has to say. Go ahead.
No worries. At this moment, for the first question, there is no proposed uses for this property. This property right now is inside Osceola County, which is within the jurisdictions of Osceola County. The applicant is only requesting to annex into the city. That's it. They're not changing anything else. It's portion and easement of 50-foot wide on the west of the property has been dedicated to access to Big Sky Apartments. So Big Sky's apartment is going to have an access directly to 192. But we need this property to be within the city limits in order for them to continue their construction. That's why we're here today. But right now, there is no intention of development on the property. The applicant, as Bernice stated, has 1 year to request a zoning from the city. Staff will be supportive of any commercial development along 192. But at this time, there's no discussion of what uses or zoning. It's gonna remain agricultural. The zoning from the county, which is CG, general commercial. In regards to the second question, the notice that you will receive is a notification of an annexation is happening, the annexation of that property. It has nothing to do with your property. This is just letting you know, it's your right to know what is happening in your surrounding, and the notification is to let you know that this property is being annexed into the city. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Be happy to answer any other additional questions. Thank you.
Any additional questions? You may continue.
Okay, I have a question.
Go ahead. Okay. I'll be closing public comments and all the comments amongst yourself. Anything you have to ask?
No, just a comment that I'm glad that residents feel happy to come here and ask questions like, what does annexation mean? Because although some folks deal with it on an everyday basis, till I joined the Planning Commission, I didn't understand it either. So good for you to ask so everybody understands.
Yes, and we thank you for coming and volunteering your time to be here.
And participating. If there's no questions for the staff or the applicant,
No, but go back to my map for me.
There you go. Any other questions, Ms. Crispy? No?
No, I just need the
Okay.
numbers.
Okay, so can I please get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of ordinance number 2024-32, based on the 16 findings of the Land Development Code.
I have a first, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passes.
Passes 5-0.
Okay. I see here that the next three ordinances are by the same properties, or would you like to
Present them all?
present them all in one and then take a final vote on all three separately? Okay. So we'll start with ordinance number 2024-33 and ANX 23-0013. Then it'll be ordinance number 2024-34, CPA 23-0021, and then ordinance number 2024-35, ZMA 23-00017. Thank you.
Good evening. Francine Sutton, Principal Planner, Community Development, and thank you for the request of presenting the projects all together. So the property before you this evening is for annexation, a comprehensive plan amendment, and a zoning map amendment of 2.45 acres located north of Golden River Lane, south of Lillian Lee Road, east of Narcoossee Road, and west of Rivercrest Avenue. And the applicant's request is approval of ordinances 2024-33, 2024-34, and 2024-35, and staff recommends approval. In relationship to the annexation, the property is contiguous and reasonably compact to the city limits, and abuts to the city limits on the western, southern, and eastern property boundaries. The existing county future land use is low-density residential, and the existing county zoning is agricultural development and conservation, which is in the county. The applicant is proposing low-density residential future land use in the city, and also is proposing agricultural zoning in the city. And with the applicant, the use the applicant and the land use that the applicant is proposing is consistent with the surrounding area, which is majority single-family residential. And development of this property should have no adverse impact on city facilities. And just a brief background about this property, it's currently located in unincorporated Osceola County, and it currently has low-density residential future land use and agricultural development conservation zoning. And it's located within the joint planning area and is contiguous to the city limits. And this annexation request meets the requirements of Florida statutes. And low-density residential is consistent with this area as, when I show the next map, you'll see that it's contiguous on either sides. And based on the applicant's request, based on table 3.30.35 in the Land Development Code, the applicant is requesting the same future land use and zoning designation that is on the property in the county. So based on that table in the Land Development Code, low-density residential in the county correlates to low-density residential in the city, and agricultural development and conservation in the county correlates to agriculture in the city. To the left, you see the current future land use for the area on Lillian Lee Road. To the south of the parcel, there's medium-density residential future land use. To the north, you have low-density residential future land use, which is in the county. And to the west of the property is low-density residential future land use, which is in the city. The applicant is requesting to construct 2 single-family homes. And to the right, you see the current zoning map, which depicts to that development is plant unit development. To the north is currently agricultural conservation, development and conservation in the county. And to the subdivision that's adjacent on the west, it's currently R1B. So based on DRC and staff recommendation, staff is recommending approval of ordinance 2024-33, ordinance 2024-34, and ordinance 2024-35, based on the 16 findings of the Land Development Code. And the applicant was not able to attend this evening based on previous travel arrangements, but staff is available for any questions.
Can you say it again? It's only
2.45 acres.
2.45 acres, and it's only building 2
Yes.
homes.
Only 2 homes. He wants to do a lot reconfiguration and create 2 lots. And he provided a water and sewer availability letter from Toho Water Authority. There is water and sewer lines in the area.
And the use of the land is going to pretty much be the same?
Single family.
Okay.
Single family.
Okay.
So let me ask you, I'm pretty sure that I know the answer to this, but keeping it as agriculture just makes it easier, right? I mean, there's no need to change it to low-density residential or anything like that, right?
Well, pretty much, he's requesting the same future land use that he has in the county.
Yeah.
But based on the staff report, he could have requested another zoning designation, but his response was he wanted to keep it the same as he had it in the county. But based on the adjacent zoning designation to the west, which is R1B, that would also be another compatible zoning designation with that property. But it just depends on if the applicant prefers to request that zoning. So based on that section of the Land Development Code, he requests to keep it ag. And basically, since his property is only I know what you're thinking.
We're just not used to seeing that.
Yes, I know what you're
It's-
thinking.
it's out of the
I
normal.
understand it, but the city code, pretty much, if you're thinking about bona fide ag with that low-density residential future land use, you have to have agricultural future land use to have that bona fide ag use. And when you're thinking about all those larger animals, they're based on the size of that acres, you're limited on the number of animals that you can get on the property. And then he would still have to meet his setbacks for that zoning district, and you couldn't be a public nuisance to that surrounding subdivision. So pretty much, and this is the difference. The difference is in the county, their ag requires a minimum of 5 acres, and then in certain portions of the county, you can have as small as 2.5 acres. But in the city, our ag requires a minimum of 1 acre. So with that small acreage, you have the option to at least create 2 lots. But I know what you're thinking, but for those more larger animals, city code limits the number of animals that you can keep in that ag zoning. And when you're thinking about those bona fide ag uses, his future land use of low-density residential limits him to those residential developments.
But animals could still be there.
He can have animals, but there's a limit. Like, for instance, in that, I have it up.
We reviewed that earlier
Yes.
here.
And I know what you're thinking. So it's similar with the number of pets you can have. You're limited to the number of pets. Like, for instance, cats and dogs, you can't exceed the number of 4. And then based on the certain weight of the animal, it's a minimum acre requirement. Like, if you're having an animal that's over 400 pounds, you're limited to 1 head per acre. But if he's creating the 2 lots and having 1 acre, he wouldn't have the space he needs to even keep anything over that amount. But like the smaller animals, based on if he's only going to have 1 acre per lot, he's limited to the amount that he can get on that 1 lot. Because with the accessory structure for the, whether it's a keeping pen or something like that, it's a 25-foot minimum setback. And then with Lillian Lee Road, for the future widening of that road, he'll be required to dedicate some frontage of his property, so he's gonna maybe lose a few feet or et cetera, which would then, the setback for his structure would have him limited on his property, pretty much if he wanted to have that accessory structure for those smaller animals under the 40 pounds. So pretty much, he'll be limited on the amount that he can have there based on the size of the property.
And what's the surrounding properties?
Yes. So to the north, that's currently ag in the county. It's agricultural development and conservation. And directly to the west, you have R1B. And to the south of it is also residential. It's a plant unit development. So he's that random piece that's right in between the 2 subdivisions. He'll be eliminating that enclave on the southern portion of Lillian Lee Road. And I wish the applicant was here to speak more to what he's proposing, but based on what he
Is the applicant a builder?
no, he's he said just want to relocate or move to St. Cloud because he's tired of commuting from, I believe he lives somewhere near Tampa.
He just doesn't want to give up his ag rights.
I love it.
But, and then I also,
Surprised you found a
yeah.
piece of land to do that, though.
But I can see now by the size of the division that he's not going to be able to get maybe what he think he might get, but at least it's been.
Yes, yes, for bona fide ag,
Yeah.
you need agriculture or future land use.
Yeah.
And low-density residential, it means just that, residential.
He will have a surprise.
Smart guy.
What is the reason for the two dotted?
So it's currently two parcels.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah,
it's
it's
two
currently two parcels. So what he'll have to do is he'll have to do a lot reconfiguration, and then that'll be a separate process after this. And then he'll have to show the new boundary lines for those two separate lots.
So this makes complete sense, because how would you access the second parcel?
Exactly,
if-
yes. He has to, he's gonna come right down.
If you don't reconfigure,
Right.
right, so.
Right, and then,
Yeah.
yes. And based on the width requirements, the minimum requirements for ag, you need a minimum of 125 feet. So he couldn't get more than two lots on this particular property.
Right.
Because with ag, you have to have a minimum of 125. And then if he did go R1B, anything over two lots would be a subdivision, and then you would have to do your stormwater and all that. So he's pretty much two on this site is,
He's borderline to what he can have.
yes,
Okay.
Thank you for the additional explanation.
no problem. And I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Any other questions for her? Or has she answered everything? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. We will open it up for public comments if there's any. Yes, ma'am.
Betty Damke, 4776 Hidden Heights Trail, St. Cloud. If I can get one of you up to come and really clarify where this property is. Some of the residents have reached out to me. They're not sure. Seemed to be a conflict when they looked at the property appraiser's website.
So this is Lillian Lee,
That's Lillian Lee.
and I believe this is Ashton Park subdivision.
Okay.
And then
Is that Puffin Road to the right?
Puffin Road is further.
Further
to the
down.
east.
Further east.
Yeah, because right here is Narcousie, this is Narcousie,
Yeah.
Okay.
and Puffin Road is far east.
Okay, and of course where it's, the black and white is the outline.
And this is, what's the name of that road? Oh, my.
Yeah. When you go into Ashton Park, it's that one where you're, yeah.
Right, I understand where Ashton, and I'm very familiar with Lillian Lee and Puffin Road, but,
You go past it every day and probably don't even recognize it.
Yeah, I think Puffin's a little bit off to the
Oh,
right
yeah.
on the,
yeah,
on the map.
we were.
Further down.
Puffin is further to the right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's further up the road.
Yeah, because there's another couple of acres down there, and they weren't sure which piece of property.
This is right after the pond.
Right after the pond. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other public comments? If not, we will close public comments. Any questions amongst yourselves? If we have none, I will,
This is just strange for us.
It is.
something Like this.
Just remember,
I like it.
commission members may take each case separately. We have
Mhm.
three
Yes.
to go.
so can I get an ordinance number 2024-33, annexation? Can I get a motion?
I would like to make a motion to recommend approval of ordinance number 2024-33,
Mhm.
based on the 16 findings within the Land Development Code.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Passes 5-0.
First ordinance passes. Second ordinance, number 2024-35, ZMA 23,
-34, Mr. Chairman.
oh, 34, sorry.
Yes.
CPA 23-00021.
I would like to make a motion to recommend approval of ordinance number 2024-34, based on the 16 findings within the Land Development Code.
A second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
Passes 5-0.
Now we will go to ordinance number 2024-35, ZMA 23-00017.
I would like to make a motion to recommend approval of resolution, or I'm sorry, ordinance number 2024-35, based on the 16 findings within the Land Development Code.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Passes 5-0.
Motion passes. Okay, so I have three more from Toho Water. Would you like to show them all three at the same time? Okay. We will be viewing ordinance number 2024-36, ANX 24-00003, and then ordinance number 2024-37, CPA 24-00003, and then ordinance number 2024-38, ZMA 24-00003.
By default, good evening. Francine Sutton, Principal Planner. I'll be presenting ordinance 2024-36, 2024-37, and ordinance 2024-38. So let me see if I can put my glasses on. Okay. I believe that's 6.03 acres. Okay, so the total land area is 6.03 acres, and is currently located at 3201 Kissimmee Park Road in St. Cloud, Florida. And the request before you this evening is for annexation, a comprehensive plan amendment, and a zoning map amendment. And the applicant's request is approval of ordinance 2024-36, approval of ordinance 2024-37, and approval of ordinance 2024-38. And staff recommends approval. Based on section 171.44 of the Florida statutes, the property is contiguous and reasonably compact to the city limits, and it abuts the city on the western, southern, and eastern property boundaries. The property currently has mixed-use future land use in the county and mixed-use zoning in the county. The proposed future land use for this property is also mixed use with the proposed zoning designation of mixed use, which is compatible with the surrounding area. And this project should have no adverse impacts on city facilities. Okay, so
It really is contiguous.
it really is. Yes, it's there. So as you can see before you, this is the location map for the property that's showing the subject property in relation to the city of St. Cloud city limits. Oh, wow, that is. Okay, and then there's the future land use depicting in the darker blue, that's mixed use, future land use in the county, with the pink being mixed use, future land use in the city. And as you can see on the eastern map, you see the zoning designation of mixed use. The darker pink is in the city limits, and the lighter blue is the mixed use zoning designation in the county, so it's compatible with the area. And staff recommends approval of the annexation, the comprehensive plan amendment, and the zoning map amendment for ordinances 36. Oh, go. There it is. There it is. For ordinance 2024-36, and approval of ordinance 2024-37, and approval of ordinance 2024-38. And staff is available for any questions.
So we're basically just changing them over from county to city.
Yes.
And it's plump in the middle of the city, looks like.
Yeah.
Yes.
To make it simple. Okay. Any other questions for the city?
And this is a new water plant is what this is.
It's existing.
Or it's existing, but they're, it's just the land, not the addition of the facility.
Yeah, so pretty much we're taking the acreage into the city limits, and then we're giving them the exact same future land use and zoning that they have in the county.
Okay.
Basically an annexation.
Pretty much, yeah, we're annexing and then giving them a land use and a zoning.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am. If the applicant would like to speak, if they're here.
Thank you.
I thought you had somebody from Toho here. Okay. Opening for public comments. Come on down, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Christy Kilcoyne, and I live at 3200 Kissimmee Park Road, directly across the street from the water plant. I just wanted to come and say I have concerns about the annexation because I'm afraid of the impact it's going to have to my property and creating like a donut hole where I have county or city all around me and I'm just one parcel, and what that's going to mean for the future for our property. So,
You're the blue on top of the blue.
pardon?
Are you the blue on top of the blue?
I am.
You'll be alone down that hall.
Do you have any other questions other than that, the city could help answer?
I guess a more pointed question would be, would there be a desire to annex our property in because of it being all around? Is that a future direction that you would see?
Those are all fair questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Francine Sutton, Principal Planner, City of St. Cloud Community Development. So as you see before you, the city and the county has a joint planning agreement, and that agreement was entered into 2014, I forgot the ordinance number. So what you see before you, what that joint planning agreement means, that means that land in the unincorporated county would eventually become annexed into the city limits eventually. I don't, and as you can see in this area, which is along Kissimmee Park Road, a lot of properties in this area has already begun annexation in this area. And I understand what you mean by creation of an enclave by taking this water plant. But eventually, most of the enclaves or the little remnant parcels that you see in this area will eventually become annexed into the city limits over time. And I do understand your concern about growth in that area. And as far as it impacts your property,
It will not change our zoning.
it will not, you currently, what you have in the county, I think you already have the same mixed-use, land use and zoning as that property. So it won't affect your use, or your single-family home. You can continue as is with no effect. This is only for the water plant to bring it into the city limits. Yeah, I know that word is scary, so pretty much that means is that it'll be officially part of the city limit. So that means that if they were to pull permits, they would go to the city and not the county. So if you had a question about a shed, then you would have to contact the county until you're annexed into the city limits.
Well, then you pay city taxes and stuff too.
That's right.
So-
As far as a timeframe for cleaning up these enclaves and.
Ma'am, if you have questions, you need to be on the microphone for the public comment.
So, follow-up question would be the timeframe for cleaning up any enclaves that are created by all the annexation going on.
Okay. So right now, the city is currently working with the county to create an interlocal agreement, and there's, I believe, 3 different priority areas to clean up different enclaves created by these annexations. So right now, the city is currently working on with the county, and that timeline will be forthcoming when we begin to annex some of the existing enclaves in the county. Because per that joint planning agreement, by a certain year, the city has to work towards annexing most of those enclaves that are in that joint planning area.
Do you know what that certain year is?
I hate that I don't have the agreement right in front of me, but there was a year on that agreement. Was it 2014? Yes, 2014.
As in past?
She says,
They're
when
asking
is
a
it
different
coming?
question. They're asking going forward.
Forward.
When was it coming forward?
Oh, yeah, Dagmar Istagara, Deputy Director. Yes, right now we are currently creating a strategic map for annexations, including enclaves. It's going to be an ongoing project all throughout 2024 through 2025 and 2026. Right now, as Francine mentioned, we have 3 priority areas. Edgewater is priority 1. The east north of 192 is priority 2. We have already brought forward Trinity Place, Amelia Groves, and you're going to be seeing pretty soon Live Oak. So you're slowly going to be seeing a lot of these annexations coming forward. But again, we're still, because it's something that we have to do strategically, because as as we annex, we gotta make sure that we have the resources and that we have the ability to sustain this annexations. We cannot just go and start grabbing land right away. But right now, they are voluntary. We're not doing any initiated any annexations. So we're not in the business of trying to grab people's.
I do have a question.
property.
Is there anything that would require the property owner to submit an application for annexation, such as selling the property or something like that?
No, there's no requirement. There is an encumbrance agreement that some property owners that have Toho water has the obligation that at the time that they're contiguous to the city have to annex, and that's the case of Edgewater. That's why a lot of the land in Edgewater is being annexed, because they have those agreements with Toho. But right now, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with encumbrance annexations and Angeles annexations. The Angeles annexation, like I said, is gonna be a multi-year project.
So basically, if like to Ms. Kilcoyne's point, she's happy to be county, been county for however many, multiple years. Eventually, there'll come a time when that piece of property will require annexation into the city, and the impact on her or the family that lives there is that there will be a different taxing structure. She could pay more, she could pay less, or that's left up to whatever's happening at that time in our community.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Ma'am, did that answer all your questions? Thank you.
All right, there's no other questions from the public. Are there anything? We'll close public comments. Any questions amongst yourselves?
No, go to the next slide.
Okay.
If you want some
Ordinance
approvals, you better
numbers,
go.
there you go. We'll go with ordinance number 2024-36 first, DRC case number ANX 24-00003. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of ordinance number 2024-36 based on the 16 findings of the Land Development Code.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passes. Next ordinance, number 2024-37, DRC case number CPA 24-00003.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of ordinance number 2024-37 based on the 16 findings of the Land Development Code.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Passes 5-0.
Next and last is zoning map amendment, ordinance number 2024-38, DRC case number ZMA 24-00003.
I would like to make a motion to recommend approval of ordinance number 2024-38 based on the 16 findings within the Land Development Code.
A second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Passes 5-0.
Passes 5-0. Okay. Madam Secretary, when will be our next meeting?
It will be June 18, 2024 at 6 p.m.
Thank you, ma'am. Do I have a motion for dismissal?
I'll make a motion to
To close?
adjourn.
Adjourn?
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.